Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I have no button. There we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. As part of the award ceremony, we'll start off with a resolution of respect for one of our INMM members who has passed away. We pay tribute to the memory of a dear friend and esteemed colleague who left an indelible mark on the field of nuclear safety. It is with sadness that we remember Ronald Beck Pope, who passed away on March 24th, 2023. His contributions and dedication to the cause of nuclear safety will forever remain in our hearts. Ronald Beck Pope dedicated his career to ensuring the safety of nuclear operations. With a profound understanding of mechanical engineering, Ron applied his technical expertise to various roles throughout his professional career. From his work at NASA during the Apollo program to his significant contributions as the head of IAEA Transport Safety Unit and within national lab complexes, including Argonne National Lab, Ron's commitment to nuclear safety knew no bounds. His extensive travels took him to over 70 countries, where he shared his experience and expertise and collaborated with colleagues from around the world. Today, we stand united in our respect and admiration for our late friend and colleague. His professionalism, expertise, and unwavering commitment to nuclear safety have inspired countless individuals in our community and beyond. In light of his remarkable contributions and the void his passing has left behind, the INMM adopts this resolution of respect. We honor the memory of our esteemed colleague and extend our heartfelt condolences to his family. We hope that in their sorrow they find solace in his memories of remarkable achievements, worthy deeds, and invaluable contributions to his profession throughout his lifetime. With unanimous adoption by the membership of our 64th annual meeting this May 2023, we, the INMM, pay homage to the life and legacy of Ronald Beck Pope. So just as an aside and note of our resolutions for respect, we won't ask any of his family to come on stage. We normally send them a commemorative plaque indicating that. We do, as the awards committee, reach out to his family and acknowledge INMM and his contribution. This is one of the more enjoyable parts of being on the awards committee, talking with people. When we reach out to their family, we often hear great stories about their time at INMM, whether it be within working groups or the annual meetings. So thank you for listening to that. So next on to our awards. First, we'll start with the Early Career Awards. They recognize members of INMM who are 35 years of age or younger and who have made singular outstanding achievements or a series of notable achievements in an area of nuclear material management relevant to INMM and its technical divisions. The candidates' notable achievements must not be related to work performed in pursuit of an academic degree. In the case of a series of achievements, work related to a degree may be considered. The notable achievements or series of achievements must be accomplished by the nominee while a member of the INMM. This year, we'll award 3 people, and they'll come on stage. The first member to receive this year is Dr. Alexis Trahan. Dr. Trahan made significant contributions to the National Nuclear Security Administration's Nuclear Compliance Verification, or NCV, program, showcasing her remarkable achievements and noteworthy service. One of Dr. Trahan's major contributions has been her development of a training program for the plutonium verification team. She ensured the team's proficiency in non-destructive assay tools and techniques by organizing and executing numerous training events at both domestic and international nuclear facilities. Her training program now supports multiple events each year, leaving a lasting impact on the team's capabilities. Dr. Trahan's dedication extends beyond technical contributions, where she actively supports the strategic direction of NCV program and plays a crucial role as a technical advisor. Her guidance has been essential in shaping the program's future, emphasizing the importance of developing the next generation of professionals and capabilities. Dr. Trahan's exceptional contributions, achievements, and commitment to the NCV program make her a deserving candidate for the INMM Early Career Award. Her training, initiatives, technical expertise, and strategic leadership have significantly advanced the field of nuclear compliance verification. So I'll ask her to come up stage and receive the award.
Okay. Well, I will say thank you very much to this community. That means everything to me personally and professionally. Thank you for all of your support, and this is so much more than a job because I get to work with all of you and learn from you every day. So thank you.
Well, the next two awardees will have a second to think about what they want to say. Sorry, Alexis. The second Early Career Award goes to Dr. Kyle Hardig, who is currently an assistant professor in the nuclear engineering program at the University of Florida. His noteworthy accomplishments include being a thrust lead and a key member of the Defense Threat Reduction Agency's Research Alliance on the interaction of ionizing radiation with matter, that's the IIRM, where they made significant contributions to nuclear material characterizations. Dr. Hardig is committed to championing student career development and success. As a PhD advisor, he mentored 2 DoD SMART Fellows who were the only nuclear engineering awardees nationwide this year. He also served as a mentor to multiple INMM Best Student Paper / Presentation Award winners, highlighting their dedication to nurturing the next generation of nuclear professionals. The nominee's research expertise has been recognized through prestigious awards such as the DITRA Young Investigator Award for his research on radio frequency detection and characterization of nuclear detonations using laser plasma surrogates. He was also the recipient of the PNNL DNN R&D, that's NA22, Best Research Paper Award. A lot of letters there. In addition to his research accomplishments, Kyle has actively contributed to the development of the nuclear security community. He integrated machine learning into new safeguards and non-proliferation course material at the University of Florida, collaborating with subject matter experts to enhance the curriculum. Dr. Hardig's dedication to research, commitment to student mentorship, and involvement in the nuclear security community make him a deserving candidate of the INMM Early Career Award. Kyle, will you please come up?
Well, I'd like to echo my colleagues' statements that came before me, and this might set it up for the next one to be even easier. I just want to name a couple of people that were influential on me. One, also thanking Professor Sunil Churaya for nominating me, Professor Sarah Pozzi for including me as one of my first research awards on her consortium. With the IEA and DOE for the NGFP kind of NNSA fellowship program that really jump-started my career. And some key mentors there, Kevin Veal, Chris Orton, and some other colleagues. So thank you once again.
You're not on the right slide.
Oh my goodness.
It's okay. It's not there.
I'm sorry. We had all these great pictures. I apologize. Deanna set that all up. Sorry, Deanna. And she told me. And now well, we're a bit out of order. So, in the past, this was a surprise for our ESARDA members. During the annual meeting, we would drum roll and build up the suspense, tell you all about the person, and at that last sentence announce who they were. We're not doing that this year, so there's a little less of a surprise. The third Early Career Award goes to Dr. Anaga Iyengar. Dr. Iyengar's journey in the nuclear field began with a strong academic foundation and passion for pushing the boundaries of knowledge. Her dedication and commitment were evident from the start as she pursued her master's and PhD degrees. Anaga's impact extends beyond academia, however. She is actively engaged with government agencies and international partners to drive progress in nuclear security and international safeguards. As a program manager in the U.S. Department of Energy's NNSA, Anaga has demonstrated exceptional leadership and vision. She established partnerships with industry and other DOE offices to ensure non-proliferation considerations are integrated into the design of advanced reactor projects. Her work in international safeguards has resulted in countries signing and fulfilling their obligations, strengthening the global nuclear security landscape. Dr. Iyengar's leadership displays enthusiasm, motivation, and insight. Her colleagues commend her strong work ethic and excellent communication skills, which have allowed her to effectively collaborate with diverse teams and build bridges between organizations. Dr. Iyengar embodies the qualities we seek to celebrate the INMM Early Career Award. Her technical expertise, leadership abilities, and dedication to advancing nuclear security makes her a shining example of young professionals in our industry. Anaga, will you please come up?
Thank you really to this community and to everyone who's mentored me and guided me throughout my career. I'm so honored and humbled. I definitely didn't, achieve anything alone, so I'm just really grateful for everything. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to switch from Early Career Awards to talk about Education and Outreach Awards. The Education and Outreach Award acknowledges an individual or organization for efforts related to education and outreach in the nuclear materials management field. This year, we'll award 2 people. Our first awardee is Professor Camilla Palmer. She started her career in nuclear and radiological engineering and health physics and is currently the associate school head and an associate professor in the College of Engineering, School of Nuclear Science and Engineering at Oregon State University. Her broad background has enabled her to develop coursework in nuclear security, cybersecurity, robotics, cryptography, advanced reactors, and nuclear forensics. This experience enabled her to provide real-world applications of significant interest to her classes, creating new courses to form the core curriculum for the medical physics graduate program. Her exciting classes in nuclear security, science, arms control, nonproliferation, and terrorism attract students in nuclear science. She's been awarded the OSU Austin Paul Award, recognizing faculty who develop student relationships in which they lead, encourage, and stimulate students in the pursuit of creative, innovative engineering ideas. Camille is a tireless advocate for students and engagement with the public, and we're happy to award her the INMM Education and Outreach Award for her excellence and innovation in teaching the next gen of nuclear engineers. Accepting the award for her today is Lily Ranjbar. Lily, will you come on up? And we also, you would stay up here, Camille has recorded something, a nice little note, so if you could just stay while this happens.
Hello from Oregon. I'm so sorry I can't be there in person and sincerely appreciate receiving this recognition for education and outreach. It is a real privilege to work at an academic institution with enthusiastic and capable students, and have found the INMM community to be incredibly welcoming and supportive in helping connect both faculty and students with opportunities to engage. So I view this really as evidence of your commitment to reaching out to university partners as much or more than my efforts. But I'm grateful for the acknowledgement and look forward to fostering this alliance with INMM. Thank you.
Okay, our second awardee is Dr. Claudio Garriazo. Claudio has been active in education and outreach starting with his years at Texas A&M, Nuclear Security Science and Policy Initiatives. There, he created the Nuclear Facilities Experience, which provides a student and international safeguards professionals an immersive experience visiting operational nuclear facilities across the fuel cycle. To date, this program has included nearly 250 students, university faculty members, and young professionals. Over 10 international, 8 US, and 1 virtual experience. In his many roles within INMM, whether it be at the executive committee, chapter relations, or education and training, Claudio's been an advocate for students. During his term as INMM Chapter Relations Committee, he led the formation of several student chapters and created a chapter incentive program. As a principal nuclear research engineer at Argonne, he supports the Office of International Safeguards, leading the human capital development there. He's also co-chair of the Measuring Success Working Group to measure programmatic success in recruiting, educating, training, and retaining a new generation of safeguards professionals. Today, we recognize him for encouraging, mentoring, and teaching new safeguards professionals with INMM Education Outreach Award. Claudio?
Hello from Oregon.
Okay, I only have 5 minutes, right? Thank you so much, everyone. I want to thank the INMM and all those that nominated me. It's a really easy job, and it's a really easy mission to believe in when you believe in the people. And having a small, tiny part of that for all the people that have joined me on these excursions, it's been an honor to be with you and a pleasure to call you all as friends. So thank you very much.
We recognize, and so now we go on to a different award type. To recognize and honor an exceptional individual who has made groundbreaking contributions to the field of nuclear science while also serving as a beacon of inspiration for women in the scientific community. The INMM Award for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility celebrates those who have tirelessly worked to promote equal opportunity and foster a diverse and inclusive environment in nuclear materials management. This year, it's with great pride that we present this prestigious award to Dr. Darlene Hoffman. Dr. Hoffman's commitment to education and mentorship is equally remarkable and notable. She recognized the importance of fostering the next generation of scientists and played a pivotal role in shaping the academic landscape. As the second female chemistry faculty member at the University of California, Berkeley, she championed the inclusion of women in her discipline, creating an environment where aspiring scientists could thrive and succeed. I find that really incredible. Dr. Hoffman's accomplishments continue to inspire and empower. From being the first female on a Nevada test site drillback team to becoming the first woman to deliver a commencement address in the College of Chemistry Dr. Hoffman has consistently defied expectations and shattered barriers. In addition to her great groundbreaking work, Dr. Hoffman received prestigious honors such as the National Medal of Science, the American Chemical Society Priestley Medal, and most recently the Enrico Fermi Award, recognizing her exceptional contributions to the scientific community. Dr. Hoffman's impact extends far beyond her impressive list of accomplishments. She's become a role model, mentor, and advocate for women and men in the field of nuclear science, breaking down barriers and paving the way for future generations. Today, we celebrate Dr. Hoffman's extraordinary achievement and honor her as a trailblazer and a true champion of diversity in nuclear material management. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Darlene Hoffman for her exceptional contributions and her unwavering commitment to promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the field of nuclear science. Accepting the award today on her behalf is our colleague and her colleague, Dr. Vladimir Mosin. Or not. Okay. Fantastic woman. Okay, and finally, this is my last award to present before we hand it off to Melissa and John. Let me switch the slide. Here we go. The Vincent J. DeVito Distinguished Service Award is named for a former INMM president and technical division chair. The award recognizes individuals who have provided long-term, outstanding service to the Institute, as well as made noteworthy contributions to the nuclear materials management profession. Eligible candidates are required to be members in good standing of the Institute. George Ancelon's career began as a nuclear research officer at the Air Force Technical Applications Center before joining Lawrence Livermore National Lab. He spent his career looking for ways to detect clandestine and illicit nuclear weapon capabilities around the world. At Livermore, he held a series of leadership positions in export control and developing policies and methods for strengthening international safeguards. He spent 2 years at the IAEA as a safeguards information management analyst, and for many years he was a consultant in the area of open source analysis. His work is regarded as path-breaking for acquisition path targets. I wrote it, and performance targets for detecting nuclear activities at undeclared sites. George's career spans over 45 years, and he's an internationally recognized expert in nuclear safeguards, intelligence analysis, and non-proliferation policy. He's currently a distinguished member of the technical staff at Lawrence Livermore, where he still consults on projects. He was awarded the Intelligence Community SEAL Medallion for work in Iraq following the first Gulf War and the NNSA Distinguished Service Gold Award. We're proud to recognize Dr. Ancelon with the Vincent J. DeVito Distinguished Service Award for his long-term and noteworthy contributions to international safeguards. Accepting the award today is Mr. Greg White. Or not. Okay, so thank you all for your attention. We'll now go to Melissa Einvector and John Creasy for some more awards.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melissa Einwechter. I'm chair of the INMM Education and Training Committee, and I'm joined by John Creasy. He's the chair of Student Awards, and our committee spearheads 2 student awards, so I'll let John talk a little bit about the first one.
Okay, hi guys. I've been doing this for a few years. Took it over from the esteemed Jim Andre. So if you saw me in your sessions and you're a student, and I was riding on something, then I think you know the gig was up. But I'd like to tell you briefly about the J.D. Williams Student Paper Award. It's actually now in its 29th year. It was originally called the Student Award back in 1979, and it was renamed the J.D. Williams Student Paper Award in 2003 to honor the memory of James D. Williams, the INMM president from 2001 to 2002, for his energetic backing of young professionals, tireless support of INMM to stimulate interest in, respect for, and proliferation of nuclear materials management principles. It's the first time I've used proliferation in that context before. And also a few kids that are really into math don't run the numbers on all the numbers I said earlier. The award was not consecutive years. So, students who enter this competition are judged both on their presentation skills as well as the papers they write. The winners themselves receive a cash prize, and Melissa and I have fought to make sure the students get top dollar for winning these prizes. And this year, 40 student papers made the criteria for consideration, and those will actually be announced at the INMM Executive Committee meeting in July. I would really like to personally, and as part of the committee, thank all the oral presentation judges for making great presentations. I was seriously impressed. Most of you practice your presentations. Really also impressed with that. I recall being a student and thinking I could wing it. And especially I'd like to thank all the oral presentation judges for giving some time, filling out those judging forms, because we use all those to make sure these students win those awards. That's about it. Yeah, thank you.
All right, I would just like to add to that. I'd like to give a round of applause to John Creasy, because managing the student competition is a lot of work. It starts as soon as those abstracts get submitted, and especially these last few weeks. It's just a tremendous effort. So if we can give him a round of applause. All right, our second award is a new one this year. It's the Memorial Education Scholarship. It's a $1,000 cash award given to an INMM student member demonstrating exceptional leadership in the Institute. Each year, it is named in memory of a former INMM member who themselves demonstrated exceptional leadership in the Institute. At the start of this year, we announced that there would be 2 awards conferred in 2023 for our inaugural year in honor of Dennis Mangan. He served as INMM Vice President, President, Fellow, and for 18 years as the editor of the Journal of Nuclear Materials Management, JNMM. And the second for Robert Sorensen, who was a founding member of INMM's Pacific Northwest chapter, a regular contributor to the annual meeting, and a fellow of the Institute. I'd like to extend our appreciation to all of the applicants for this year's award. It was a fantastic bunch for their service to INMM and the nuclear materials management community. After we announce the winners, we will invite them to stand at their seats. Unfortunately, they don't entrust me with the $1,000 for you, so you will be receiving that, though. So we are pleased to award the scholarship to our first winner, Aaron Fjellstead. Aaron, yes. Aaron is president of the Penn State chapter of INMM. He was previously secretary of that chapter as well. He's presented his research at multiple INMM meetings, including this one, and he has been involved in organizing 2 INMM workshops, including last year's workshop on the security of advanced reactors, which one long-term INMM member called one of the best INMM workshops that I have attended during my nearly 50 years as a member of the INMM. Aaron will graduate with his PhD in nuclear engineering in May 2025 and plans to pursue a career in nuclear materials management, which he credits to his involvement in INMM. Thank you for your leadership in the Institute, Aaron, and again, congratulations. We are also pleased to award the scholarship to our second winner. He unfortunately was not able to make it in person, Abu Bakar Sadiq Aliyu. Abu Bakar has served 4 terms as the president of the Ahmad Bello University Student Chapter, is an active member of the INMM Nigerian chapter, and has shared his research on nuclear security, waste management, and engaging the next generation in INMM meetings. Abu Bakar anticipates completing his PhD in nuclear physics in 2025 or 2026. He credits INMM with being his window to the international nuclear community and says that it has played an instrumental role in shaping both his career path and his perspective on nuclear issues. So we thank him for his leadership in the Institute and congratulate him as well. And with that, I will turn it over to Nancy Jo Nicholas to announce fellows.
Thank you. INMM Fellow is a distinction reserved for select INMM members whose extraordinary accomplishments in the field of nuclear materials management and whose contributions to the Institute of Nuclear Materials Management are deemed fitting of this prestigious grade elevation. The total number of fellows at the time of their advancement, excluding those who have resigned or become fellows emeritus, shall never exceed 5% of our total INMM regular membership. The INMM Fellows as a body represent a wealth of both historical and current knowledge about and commitment to the Institute. This year, as chair of the INMM Fellows Committee, I am proud and privileged to announce 3 new INMM Fellows. This year's first candidate for Fellow, William Jansen, has been a pragmatic and effective leader and truly demonstrated dedication to both the INMM and the European Safeguards Research and Development Association, or ESARDA, serving in strategic leadership positions in both organizations. Willem earned his degrees in nuclear engineering from the Catholic University of Leuven in Belgium. He began his professional career working for Westinghouse as a nuclear safety and licensing engineer, and later served as a nuclear safeguards inspector analyst for the EC at the French and UK nuclear fuel reprocessing facilities in Le Hague and Sellafield. Willem joined the European Commission Joint Research Center in Ispra, Italy in 2004. He's currently there as the department head for nuclear security and safeguards, a position he has held since 2016. He manages and provides strategic vision and leadership for research and development and training at the JRC's laboratories in Karlsruhe, Germany, and in Ispra, Italy. Under his leadership, that organization has experienced great success and growth. Willem is internationally recognized for his work in international safeguards and his management of safeguards programs. He has been an influential leader in both INMM and ESARDA. He's been extremely active in both the international safeguards and the nonproliferation and arms control divisions of INMM. He's soliciting papers with much energy and enthusiasm. He organizes panels and engages in our student mentorship. He served on the INMM Executive Committee as a member at large, led our chapter relations committee for a number of years, and he's currently serving as chair of the INMM Strategic Planning Committee. During his tenure at ESARDA as first vice president, president, and then past president, Willem held a critical role in organizing and preparing the first joint INMM-ESARDA annual meeting 2 years ago in 2021, which of course was held virtually, but was very, very successful. Willem presided over ESARDA's 50th anniversary meeting in Italy, which, due in no small part to his excellent management skills, was also highly successful. In addition, Willem has been a driving force for many joint INMM ESARDA workshops, most notably the workshop held at the Grand Tetons National Park in the United States in 2016. With outstanding qualifications for INMM Fellow, including his scholarly contributions, his seasoned leadership, and strategic and tactical involvement, and leadership of student members, it is with great pleasure that I announce, in recognition of his distinguished contributions to the field of nuclear materials management, that the Executive Committee of INMM has elected this 25th day of May, 2023, to the rank of Fellow, William Jansen. Please join us up here.
Well, thank you first of all a lot, Nancy Jo. It didn't have to be that long, but I'm very honored and I'm very grateful, obviously, for the organization to be able to get this recognition. As a small story, I must admit, when I was a little bit younger, 15, 20 years ago, when I came the first time to INMM, and it was about like this week, I mean, 600-700 participants, 8-9 parallel sessions, and you come there as a young European and you almost know nobody. That was a kind of a challenge, but I must say I admire our INMM friends because they were able to very quickly embrace this stranger into their families, and there was a trick to that because they immediately gave me a job to do, which in fact helps to get to know the people. So I can only encourage, if there are still a bunch of young Europeans also in the room, to not only actively participate to our ESARDA association, but also come to the INMM. Join the club, come over to the US from time to time. We'll give you a job as well, and then one day you will be able to contribute to this endeavor. So I admire, as I said, the diversity and the inclusion that the INMM has been showing, not only for Europeans. We are trying to expand, as you saw it this week, and we hope that we can build upon this experience of the joint European ESARDA and INMM meeting to, in fact, enhance further this outreach and diversity also in the future. And with this distinguished award, I'm also very happy to continue and support that endeavor and push the development further. So thank you very much again.
It turns out these do have to be long speeches because it takes a lot of work to become fellow. This year we are privileged to have a second candidate for fellow who is not only, let's see if I can figure this out, not only an active leader professionally, but someone who is truly dedicated to the INMM by volunteering time and energy to make our institute better as a professional society. Irmgard Niemeyer earned her PhD in geography with minors in meteorology and geophysics at the University of Bonn in Germany. She has dedicated her career to education, research, and professional engagement. She has taught university courses on digital image processing, geomonitoring, geoinformation, nuclear safeguards, and nonproliferation. She's authored dozens of peer-reviewed publications, presented hundreds of papers on her research, edited 2 books, and written 12 chapters. In 2010, Irmi left academia and joined the Research Center at Juilliard, where she today leads a team of researchers in developing safeguards, climate impact, and arms control verification solutions. Since 2012, she's been the scientific coordinator of the German Safeguard Support Program to the IAEA. Irmi is deeply respected for her expertise as an international safeguards expert. She not only serves as the German representative to the IAEA Director General's Standing Advisory Group on International Safeguards, she's also now serving as the SAGC chair and a major driving force of safeguards and nonproliferation work in the international community. Irmi spent 6 years serving ESARDA in the roles of Vice President, President, and Past President, really working to strengthen the connection between ESARDA and the INMM. For INMM, she has been incredibly impactful and hardworking as a contributor, serving on the INMM Executive Committee as a member at large, and very active in technical divisions. She's currently serving as chair of INMM's International Safeguards Technical Division, a division that she supported for many years, including as associate editor for that division for our Journal of Nuclear Materials Management. She's also serving on the Technical Program Committee. She does an outstanding job of not only infusing the International Safeguards Technical Division with new ideas and new initiatives to create impact, but also in pulling together a community of all the relevant colleagues for that technical division and motivating them to move things forward. For example, she has established and co-chaired a new working group for INMM on open source geospatial information. She's very engaged in strategic planning and has long been an advocate for INMM's strategic planning initiatives, positioning the Institute to succeed in a challenging and evolving global environment. Therefore, it is with great pleasure that I announce that in recognition of her dedicated leadership and many distinguished contributions to both the field of nuclear materials management and to the Institute, that the Executive Committee of the INMM has elected this 25th day of May 2023 to the rank of Fellow Emergard Niemeyer.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nancy Jo. Thank you, INMM. I also like to thank the nominating committee, the executive committee, and all the individuals who nominated me. I should also like to take the opportunity to thank my past mentors and also predecessors in Jülich, Gotthard Stein and Bernd Richter, both INMM and ESARDA veterans. And I really thank them for enabling me for networking and also collaborating with INMM and ESARDA from the early days of my career. So to all of you who also brought new and young staff to this conference, please continue doing so. Thank you very much. And maybe even better, next time, bring more. Thank you very much.
This year's third candidate, nope, come on up, Tina. This year's third candidate for fellow, Ben Watts, is unable to be here today with us, but I'm pleased to say that the central chapter of INMM is planning an award ceremony for him. And that brings us to the end of our award ceremony, and we can move on to closing plenary. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I know it's 5 o'clock, so everyone's ready to go, but we're just at the home stretch, so hang in there. So I wanted to just welcome our two moderators who are going to kick off the closing plenary. We have Jenny Risanen. Ms. Risanen is a team leader in the Department of Safeguards. Her team is responsible for strategic foresight and planning and conducts stakeholder engagement activities, including the organization of safeguard symposia and coordination of non-traditional partnerships. And I'd also like to welcome Mark Schanfein, who really needs no introductions, and he is president extraordinaire, so I'll welcome them both onto the stage.
take a seat and let's start. Okay, so welcome everyone to this closing panel. I'm very pleased to be co-moderating this together with Mark. It's been a very busy week with numerous interesting sessions, and I hope that Vienna has been a good host for your meeting. I understand it's the first time that you hold an INMM meeting outside the United States. It's also nice to see INMM and ESARDA holding these events together. And as you know, although the IAEA's cooperation with the two organizations goes back many, many years, both became actually formally IAEA partners in 2021. So holding this meeting in Vienna has certainly enabled many of the IAEA staff to engage with you, so we are very grateful for that. So let's now begin the panel. Throughout the week, the advancement of technology has been a very common theme, and it's clear that the technological progress, with that comes both challenges and opportunities, and that is the very theme of the panel right now. So I will introduce the panelists as they make their presentations and their remarks. And our first panel is Inobhot Agborav, known to many of us as Ino. Ino is the Executive Secretary of AFCON, the African Commission on Nuclear Energy. And he was actually previously one of our own at the IAEA, Department of Safeguards, for a very respectable period of 32 years. And originally, actually, Ino comes from Cameroon. He holds a Bachelor of Engineering degree from the Imperial College of London and a master's degree in Nuclear Reactor Science and Engineering from Queen Mary University of London. Ino's vision for AFCON is to strengthen safeguards, further disarmament, and to establish regional cooperation as the central driver for the sustainable advancement of the civil nuclear ecosystem in Africa. So, Ino, I would welcome you to make your presentation so we can hear what you think is the future of nuclear energy in Africa. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me? Yes? Okay, just testing the microphone. Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank the managements of INMM and ESARDA for this opportunity. The title of my presentation is The Future of Nuclear Energy in Africa. As you can see, the thing is, it's anyone's guess what that future is or what form it's going to take, because there are so many factors that would come into play to determine what that future would be. For example, if we take nuclear power, you can see a list of things on the screen that would have to be considered in deciding which way to go or what type of technology to eventually adopt. But this is what we do know. We know that the future of Africa is in nuclear energy. We know that we want to develop nuclear energy in Africa in conformity with safeguards, nuclear security, and nuclear safety. We know that we want to develop it in a way that would foster sustainable socio-economic development on the continent. And we also know that we want to do that in conformity with the 3 pillars of the NPT. That is non-proliferation, disarmament, and the peaceful applications of nuclear energy. There are many things, there are many civil applications of nuclear energy, but the ones that I want to focus on for the purposes of this presentation are industrial and economic development, human health, and nutrition. Those are fundamental things that every society must have in order to thrive. And of course, we want to have self-reliance in this technology. So I start with industrial and economic development. Currently, Africa is the continent with the least per capita access to electricity. Over 80% of Africans do not have access to electricity. And the 20% that do have access to electricity do not have it reliably. That is why over 75% of the LDCs are in Africa. And I think the main reason for this is the energy poverty in Africa. Energy is a driver of industry. And if there's no energy, there can't be industrial or economic development. So we need energy in Africa. And I think there's going to be a diversity in the sources of energy. Because, for example, Africa has huge resources of solar and hydro. So we must use those. But if you look at the current climate emergency and other factors that are in play right now, nuclear energy is going to be the linchpin to address Africa's energy poverty. So the strategy that I'm proposing is a multilateral approach or a regional approach. This approach, in my opinion, would advance non-proliferation more than any other approach. And I think is the only approach that would give access to most African countries, not only to nuclear power, but also to all the other civil applications of nuclear energy. We are going to need the political support and participation of the African Union if a multilateral approach in Africa is going to work. Because whatever happens is happening in a political framework that is overseen by the African Union Commission. The idea of a multilateral approach is not new. It's over 70 years old. It has faced opposition throughout the 70 years that it's been around. But the fact that it's still around means that there is something to it. It's the approach that has been around the longest, to address or to guide the development of nuclear energy in the world. So why a multilateral approach for Africa? Because multilateralism is natural for Africans, apart from the other sort of arguments that I've made. We have a philosophy in Africa called Ubuntu, which means I am because all of us are. That is how our traditional societies have operated for millennia. And I think if we go back there, Africa could lead the way in bringing multilateralism to the development of nuclear energy in the world, not only in Africa. And it's a happy coincidence for me that today happens to be the 60th anniversary of the signing of the Charter of the African Union. I want to see that as a very good sign that this presentation coincides with that anniversary. This is a message that the Secretary General of the United Nations sent to the African Union today. We mark Africa Day at a time when cooperation and solidarity to advance the continent's future is more needed than ever. Secretary General is saying we should go back to Ubuntu, to a multilateral approach. Human health is something that is also important. It's one of the fundamental things. I chose to speak about cancer because nuclear applications are big in the treatment of cancer. When Director General Grossi launched the Rays of Hope initiative at the African Union Summit in February last year, in his statement, he said that over 70% of Africans do not have access to radiotherapy. And that is why the IAEA was stepping in to help to address that problem. Nuclear medicine is also not that prevalent in Africa, apart from the north and in the south. The middle doesn't have much capacity. So that is something that we're going to prioritize. Nutrition. Food security. 2022, the theme of the African Union in 2022 was Year of Nutrition. That is because the African Union recognized that feeding the populations is very important. And civil nuclear, food irradiation and things like that have a big role to play in food security and in agriculture. Self-reliance is the last thing I want to talk about. The COVID-19 pandemic taught us that we need to be self-reliant in certain key industries, products, and services. The war in Ukraine has also shown us that we also need to be self-reliant because supply chains can fail. I decided to pick out two aspects to address or to highlight self-reliance: education and capacity building, and uranium resources in the nuclear fuel cycle. We all know that over a dozen African countries are now looking at introducing nuclear power in their electricity mixes. Africa happens to produce about 14% of the world's uranium. All of that production is shipped overseas for further processing. If we are looking to have a functional supply chain in Africa, then we should be looking to adding capacity to our uranium resources. And this is where we answer the question. So what is the future of nuclear energy in Africa? It's likely to be mining, which we already have in the fuel cycle, uranium conversion, fuel fabrication, reactors. I was going to say enrichment, but from a non-proliferation point of view and from my background in safeguards, I would say maybe not, but we can substitute that with a fuel bank. The Central Asian region where we have the fuel bank currently is not very, let me say, stable. Kazakhstan is a landlocked country. A country like Namibia would be a very good choice for a fuel bank. It produces a lot of uranium. It's in a stable region politically. It has a large sea coast. We can have that as well. And I mentioned nuclear medicine, agricultural applications. I've gone very quickly, but I'll be happy to take questions during the Q&A. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. That was a very interesting presentation. I'm going to ask you a quick follow-up question as a moderator. So you are advocating a sort of a regional or multilateral approach to nuclear power in Africa. And as you said, the idea is not new and actually goes to the very early days of nuclear energy and early days of the IAEA vision as well. And reminds me of course, the later proposal by former DG El Barde on multilateralization of the nuclear fuel cycle. And you also make this very interesting reference this cultural reference to this collective action called Ubuntu. So you think that Africa could really lead the way in terms of realizing this vision?
I think so. Do I go back there? Or am I
You can speak from there, you can have your microphone.
I think Africa can lead the way. First of all, because Africa is the most hungry in terms of addressing this problem. And a multilateral approach is likely to face sort of political resistance for various reasons. But the amount of political resistance in Africa, I think, would be the least compared to other regions, partly because we're used to working multilaterally for thousands of years, and secondly, because the capacity in terms of developing nuclear energy is very diverse around Africa. There are countries with almost nothing, and there are countries with a lot in terms of the requirements. If we have to take everyone with us, then we need to work together. So those that have capacity can carry the others. If we're going to wait for every country to individually develop capacity, it's not going to happen. Because many countries have other priorities, like just putting food on the table or getting firewood for energy. But they're not going to look at things like that. And like you said, multilateralism is old also in the international space. In the early days, in the 50s, when the IAEA was being sort of established, there was discussion about having the IAEA own and operate all facilities that would produce fissile material. That did not fly, for various reasons, but it was a good idea. It came back again in the late 70s in the International Nuclear Fuel Cycle Evaluation Project, IMSE. It came back again in 2004 that you mentioned when former Director General El Barade established this working group to look at multilateral approaches, mainly to avoid the risk of non-proliferation. And since most of us here have a safeguards background, I'll use a safeguards example. The state-level concept, in my opinion, is a kind of multilateral approach. We started with facilities. We realized it wasn't working. So we went to the state-level approach, which is like a basket of all those facilities. And I think a multilateral approach involving different states is the next step in the evolution from the state-level approach in this multilateral system. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very interesting example and comparison. Okay, so let's move on to our second panelist. Jaakko Leino works in the Finnish Radiation and Nuclear Safety Authority, STUK, and he's the director for Department of Nuclear Waste Regulation and Safeguards, who is responsible for regulatory oversight of nuclear waste management and national nuclear safeguard system. He's been with STUK for 12 years and been very closely involved in the licensing process of the Olkiluoto spent fuel encapsulation and disposal facility, the first actually in the world. Jaakko has a master's science and he's been involved in international groups and projects involving radiological waste management and the IAEA's development work for safety standards in this area. So Jaakko will tell us about the trailblazing effort in Finland and finding technological solutions for the final disposal of spent fuel in Finland and its outlook in terms of the future. Please go ahead.
I need my glasses. Okay, good afternoon all. It's very big honor to speak in the last session in my first INMM ESARDA joint meeting. And as Jenny already mentioned, and you may have heard, Finland is about to become the first country in the world in the disposal of spent nuclear fuel, and I'm going to give you an outlook on that. First, couple of words about the nuclear regime in Finland. We have currently 5 operating nuclear power plants, Loviisa 1 and 2 in the southeast part of Finland, and then Olkiluoto 1, 2 and 3 in the east coast of Finland. And the Posiva company is owned by both of these power companies, which operates the power plants, Fortum Power and Heat and TVO. I must also mention that we have a 4-step licensing process in Finland. The first step is decision in principle, which is a political decision. It considers the overall good of society, energy policy, waste management policy, and so on. The second step is construction license, which allows the licensee to start construction of facility, but no spent fuel or criticality or anything like that cannot be in the facility. The third step is operating license, which basically allows the operations. And the last step is decommissioning license. Where we are now, Posiva submitted the operating license application to the government in December 2021. The first operating period is until 2070. It consists of disposal of fuel from Olkiluoto 1, 2, Loviisa 1, 2, and the second operational period excuse me. Second operational period is for disposal of Olkiluoto 3 fuel. The total disposal capacity is around 6,500 tons of uranium, which considers around 3,300 canisters. The operating lifetime is very long, 100 years from now. It all started in the 70s, late 70s, when the concept development started and the site selection process started. And finally, in 2001, the decision in principle was made. And 2004, Posiva started to excavate and construct the underground research facility called Onkalo. And during that time, it was also a good place to start safeguards, because we already then knew that the research facility would someday become part of actual nuclear facility. In 2015, construction license was granted for Posiva, and currently the review of operating license is ongoing. There has been some key elements supporting the progress of repository development. The one is long-term political commitment to resolve nuclear waste issue, and also this stepwise licensing process, and also courage to make decisions, because progress is the way to learn and to address challenges. Shortly, the disposal concept in Olkiluoto, for those who are not familiar with it. The encapsulation plant is located above the repository, where the spent fuel will be encapsulated, and then the canister is transported down to the repository. The repository is around 430 meters below ground level, and the repository consists of central tunnels, disposal tunnels, which also form these disposal panels. Disposal holes are located in the disposal tunnels vertically, and the canisters are emplaced in disposal holes surrounded with bentonite clay, and after that the disposal tunnels are backfilled with bentonite clay also and shut or closed with concrete blocks. Few words about safeguards and 3S without going any detail. First of all, the use of nuclear energy. First, use of nuclear materials can only be safe if materials and activities are secured and safeguarded. And secondly, use of nuclear materials can only be secured if use of materials and activities are performed safely, and materials and activities are safeguarded. The third point is that use of nuclear materials can only be safeguarded if use of nuclear materials and activities are safe and secured. So you see, it's all combined. But I think the question is, are we there yet? The answer is yes and no. Well, STUK is the national regulator for all 3S, and all 3S are being taken into account in the design, but there's still need for safety, security, and safeguards to learn from each other and find all the synergies possible, and also avoid any conflicts. Is geological disposal a challenge for safeguards? There are some things that can make it as a challenge. Well, first of all, fuel assemblies will be encapsulated and disposed to the bedrock forever. And after the encapsulations, there are no possibilities to verify the fuel using traditional measures. The operational time of the facility, which is more than a century, can create a challenge. And the fact is that the disposal is expected to start very soon. My answer to the question is no, it's not a challenge anymore if we don't make it as one. How to navigate with the challenges? The state must fill the obligations of international treaties. The state must also enable effective safeguards. The national regulator must ensure that we can always answer any questions about the nuclear materials in Finland. And Finland must also ensure that we can defend ourselves against possible hostile claims about the integrity of the disposed fuel canister, and in all kinds of contexts. Next, I have a couple of slides about the disposal operations. I go them quickly through. just to give you an idea, the disposal operation starts already at the spent fuel storage, where the fuel is verified, then transported to the encapsulation plant, and the encapsulation plant where the fuel is encapsulated, then moved to the repository, and so on, and placed into the disposal holes. And the safeguards measures must follow all these operations. Some conclusions. It has been important to have a common and agreed understanding of the safeguards measures between IAEA and the European Commission and Finland. Also, the installation of safeguards equipment is now ongoing. And I must say that this may be one of the best examples on how the safeguards by design can create effective safeguards implementation. And last but not least, a good practical cooperation between all parties is very essential.
Thank you very much, Jaakko. So just a very quick, brief question for you, Jaakko, as a follow-up. What do you think are the lessons learned regarding the safeguards by design process for this geological repository? You just mentioned that it's a really good example, but if you had to kind of say one or two key lessons, what would those be?
Well, start early. That's first message. Safeguards by design should be start early as possible. And I think the second message could be that the safeguard approach should be agreed with the IAEA and the European Commission also as early as possible. Because when you have agreed the approach, you can start integrating the safeguards into the design and also consider other S, safety and security also. And actually, maybe third one, the active communication, with active and open communication. That should be promoted during the process.
Well, that's a really good place to end your part of the presentations. And let's move on to our third panelist, and we're going to hear something very different, I think, now. Marcy Fowler is the Research Analysis Manager for the Open Nuclear Network here in Vienna, where she leads the ONN team of analysts using innovative analytical methodologies and technologies in support of nuclear risk reduction. She is an expert in information analysis and actually spent nearly a decade as an open source trade and multimedia information analyst at the IAEA. She's also worked in areas of nuclear policy and information analysis with the international non-profit organization and think tanks, as well as the US government and US national laboratories. Marcy holds a bachelor's degree in political science, in Slavic languages and literatures, and a Master of International Affairs degree from Columbia University. Marcy is going to talk to us about one of the most pressing challenges of when technological advancement is being used for more destructive purposes, that is disinformation. And what does that mean to open source analysis, the nuclear field, and global security at large? Go ahead, Marcy.
All my preparation, I seem to have lost my first page of notes. Oh no. I am honored to be here as the final presenter for this fantastically interesting week of INMM ESARDA joint meetings. I will be talking to you today, as Jenny said, on open source information how it is vulnerable to disinformation, and how it has been subject to disinformation in the nuclear realm in the past, and how it can happen again. And finally, what we can do about it, most importantly. So first I'll start off with some quick definitions. What is open source information? Generally speaking, open source information is all that information which is available to the public, whether by observation, by request, or by purchase. So you can see some examples of typical open source information here on the slide, from video to reports to web pages. In fact, publicly available presentations like this one are considered open source information. And of course, for all of you who have been tweeting during this week, you are contributing to open source information as well. In the nuclear realm, open source information is used in many ways, whether it can be used for best practice sharing, sharing scientific understanding the developments in the scientific realm of others, also understanding trade, equipment, nuclear energy. In the nuclear science, specifically nuclear security and safety realm, open source information can be particularly useful in gaining an awareness of real-time or near real-time developments in emergency situations. And in verification organizations, open source information can be very important in establishing a comprehensive understanding of nuclear fuel cycle activities of a state. It can also be used in investigating where there are unclear activities or equipment, and it can even help to uncover undeclared activities or equipment or technologies. So why is open source particularly vulnerable to misinformation? Open source information has many challenges in that it has a large variety of types and modes of information, has a large volume of information, and the velocity of open source information, new information is continuously being generated. But the key part that makes open source information so vulnerable to disinformation is the veracity. It is very hard to understand the source of open source information many times, and it's also difficult to understand the credibility of the information in a way that other forms of information are not. In particular, new open source technologies, including social media and artificial intelligence, are particularly vulnerable. Social media has an incredibly high volume of information and very high velocity of new incoming information with, I think it's 500 million new tweets that are sent out every day. It's a lot of information to try to keep up with. But in particular, the veracity. Social media is very difficult to establish the credibility, especially of the source, with much of social media coming from anonymous sources or sources that can even be obfuscated. Then in artificial intelligence actually offers a great opportunity to help with the challenges of volume and velocity. However, it can actually make the problem of veracity worse, in that artificial intelligence absorbs open source information and then can generate new information from text to video to image, thereby completely obfuscating the information that it started from. So ultimately, when using open source information, the goal is filter out the bad data and find the high quality, relevant information. So bad data, once it is generated, can be spread accidentally, unintentionally, by individuals, by the media, by many people who don't actually mean to spread the bad data. You can see here Einstein actually foresaw the challenge of technology outstripping the human ability to deal with these challenges. Yeah, actually, no, he didn't say that. This is just an example of a benign case of misinformation. This would not harm anyone in the real world. However, you can understand how something like this related to nuclear security, maybe in a real-life incident, circling the internet before real information can follow it, can create a big challenge for actually understanding what's going on in the real world. So while misinformation is unintentionally spread, disinformation has the element of intent. It is intentionally spread. It could be spread by governments, it can be spread by non-government actors, and then it is often spread by bots, or even then unintentionally spread by people who just don't do the work to fact-check the data. This example that I have here is an example of an image that was provided to Agence France Presse by an Iranian state media outlet. And as you can see, it then circled the globe. It went around in major news media from New York Times, LA Times, before they actually discovered that it was fake. It was manipulated. The third missile that you see in that image is actually just a copy of the second missile because they wanted to hide the fact that the third missile actually didn't launch. So the end result of this case is that there was confusion. Thankfully, this was detected, and media outlets were able to offer redactions and to correct the misunderstandings that were caused. But for every case where we are able to identify the disinformation, there are likely many cases out there where we have not yet ID'd these. So then, how can this impact the nuclear realm? So at the working level, scientific literature can be generated in a disinformation campaign. That literature can then be published in a non-peer-reviewed journal, may appear to be scientific, then a credible, good researcher can find that information and not recognize it as bad data, include that in their analysis, and the end result can be incorrect conclusions by that scientist. Additionally, in nuclear verification, that same bad scientific publication can be included in verification organizations' investigations, and they can then come to incorrect conclusions. They can then identify and initiate verification activities that are not warranted, or they may completely miss verification activities that should be undertaken. In the end, the ultimate conclusion of a verification organization for that state may be inaccurate because of the disinformation. So zooming out quite a bit from the working level to the broader world, disinformation can also go from a campaign to the public, distributed through bots, or again through unknowing members of the public distributing it accidentally. This can cause public misunderstanding of key issues, for example, national energy policy. The public may formulate a misguided understanding of nuclear energy, for example, and demand that their governments make bad policies that are not founded in good science. They may, for example, call for the abandonment of nuclear energy. They may call for the use of nuclear science that is not actually founded, and then ultimately result in bad nuclear energy policy. And then ramp it up one more level. The public can be disinformed by a campaign. This information can be widely distributed. They may begin to blame another state for actions that are not actually truthful. They may call for interventions, sanctions, even military actions, and in the end, you can actually see military interventions tied to nuclear-related disinformation. So this has actually happened, and this is happening again as we see. And in fact, we have one person in the audience who can tell us much more about that, Ms. Laura Rockwood. In 2003, there were claims of a secret Iraqi nuclear weapons program. Those claims spread all around the world, and despite very well-founded efforts, ultimately the military intervention went forward. 2022, and also this year as well, we've seen claims of secret Ukrainian WMD programs, from nuclear weapons programs to, I think, dirty bombs, biological weapons, biolabs, chemical warfare. It just runs the gamut, really. You've seen this being generated, distributed all around the world, both in traditional media, and the difference between 2022 and 2003 is that social media has spread this like wildfire. So, you see that the problem is real, working level, huge level, but the big question is, what can we do about it? So the organizations that we all represent here and that we work with can do a lot more. First, these organizations have spent a long time establishing public trust, and that is really, really key in disrupting disinformation. So they should continue to maintain and grow that public trust. The IAEA and the UN strengthened their public trust significantly. Although the military intervention did go forward in 2003, the IAEA and the UN was proven ultimately correct, and for that got a wealth of public trust in their technical authority. So organizations need to be willing to use that trust that they've established. One thing that governments all around the world are finding with disinformation campaigns around public health, like COVID-19, and election disinformation campaigns, countries are finding that they can't do this alone. So they're partnering with other international organizations or partnering with other countries. The EU has a number of initiatives, multilateral initiatives, working on disinformation. The UN does as well. The organizations in this room, I would highly recommend start looking to how they can contribute to these initiatives as well. Additionally, the technical knowledge that is in this room is fantastic, and fact-checking firms and the media would benefit from this knowledge. Highly technical information is especially vulnerable to disinformation, of course, and they can use your help. So please, if you have any specific questions on fact-checking firms and media, come chat with me. They would be very interested in receiving assistance from these technical organizations. And then take an active position at a lower level. I recommend to all of the organizations that are working in the nuclear sphere to look for disinformation within your area, and when you spot it, actively combat it. One thing that you can do is not just release a press release and then end it, but really release good data. Release the actual scientific truth that counters the bad data that's circulating. Tech developers and users have a special responsibility in this area. Social media should not be used to spread bad data. There are tools that users can use, but there are tools that the developers can utilize more to identify and to stop disinformation from spreading. And finally, everybody here can actually contribute to this. So information professionals, as well as anybody who uses data, use critical thinking, investigate everything that you run across in the internet, knowing that anything you see online is not fully credible. Do this in your professional life as well as in your personal life. Examine sources, verify information relentlessly. That is all I would say to close. If we all think critically, intervene actively, cooperate, use information and technology responsibly, then we can actually start to disrupt disinformation in the nuclear realm. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy, very much for a very interesting presentation. Now I'm going to change my question to you. I'm going to surprise you. Because you did such a good job in terms of outlining what are some of the actions that we as a community can take. So my question is slightly a bit more pessimistic, I guess. So you have really shown quite powerful examples of how disinformation can have real-world security impacts. My question is that, is the genie out of the bottle in terms of disinformation technologies such as deepfakes, etc.? Can we really contain this?
I believe we can. It will take everyone working together. I think that is one of the key takeaways from me in this area, is that not a single firm can combat this alone, and not a single country can. Countries who want to disrupt disinformation should act together, and organizations who are interested in disrupting this should act together with them as well. From a technical perspective, one area that I think is quite interesting in disrupting this, disrupting deepfakes, for example, is starting to authenticate good data. A lot of journalistic firms have been looking at adding hashes, for example, to images that would be very challenging, if not, well, nearly impossible, to fake. I think you're going to see that spreading with other forms of media, whether it be authenticating a video, authenticating, something that you've written. I think that we're going to see, because it's very hard to prove that something is fake, but it could be a lot easier to start proving that something is true.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So as always, technology can be for good and for bad. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Mark to see if there are any audience questions that there might be for our panelists. We have maybe time for a couple of questions.
Yes, it's fairly late, but if you do have a question, we have the microphone set up. If you can please state your name and your affiliation, and also you may want to direct your question to one of our esteemed participants.
Okay, not to waste time, because the presentations were fascinating and really gave a lot of food for thought. I have a question for Ino, and I have a question for Marcy. So my question to Ino will be, you mentioned self-reliance. How, from your perspective, self-reliance plays also, interplays with diversification of suppliers and of sources of technology and materials for developing nuclear energy in Africa. And to Marcy, I have a question about the public. So how to address the problem of users, how to make the public not to spread bad data. Thank you.
I was speaking about self-reliance in terms of having the supply chain in Africa. I wasn't thinking about individual countries. I was thinking about the collection of countries, either on a regional basis or on a sub-regional basis, because Africa is a large continent. And there are different regions. And what's more likely to happen is that it's going to be sub-regional rather than regional for the entire continent. The supply chain comes in various forms, but the one that I wanted to address in my presentation was to do with education and capacity building for the nuclear sciences and technology. Most African students go overseas to study nuclear sciences. I did that. But now we're looking at establishing programs in African universities that will build capacity there. My organization, the African Commission on Nuclear Energy, is now speaking with the Nuclear Energy Corporation of South Africa, NECSA, that has a nuclear learning academy. They have several decades of experience in providing education in nuclear competencies, but they've only been doing it within the company. So now we want to expand it. We want to make it accessible through university programs. So we're also speaking with Wits University in South Africa to have a program there where we're going to be teaching all the different subjects that would be needed to address the different technological needs in the nuclear ecosystem in Africa. And we are expanding it to include other African countries, institutions and universities, technical colleges around the continent. I mentioned in my panel on Tuesday that we're looking to establish a kind of African Erasmus system. We're also looking to leverage what other stakeholders in the sort of Africa nuclear energy space are doing. For example, this AfraNest, which is hosted at the agency, which has been quite dormant. We want to resurrect it, you know, the nuclear education, science and technology. And I learned from Willem, who got an award, congratulations, and about other opportunities that are available in the education and capacity building space in Africa, what others have done in the past. So we're not going to reinvent the wheel. As we go forward, we will take what has been done before and incorporate it in what we're doing. In the field of safeguards, we showcased the program that we have with TUC, the Radiation and Nuclear Safety Authority of Finland. This is a project of the European Commission to sort of build capacity and safeguards in Africa. And it's a 5-year project that we launched about 2 weeks ago. In the half century that African countries have been receiving training in safeguards, all the training has been driven by external entities. This is the first time that we have training that is driven by an African entity, as the African Commission on Nuclear Energy. And this is going to be different because we have the capacity to ensure sustainability of the training outcomes. And we're doing this not in an isolated way. We are also reaching out to collaborate with other capacity building providers like the IAEA, like INSEP, to make sure that we don't duplicate efforts and waste resources. But the idea is that that capacity will be able to be provided in Africa through African entities. And as African countries are moving towards establishing nuclear power, this program that we're doing in safeguards, in 5 years' time, we believe that every African country will be up to date in terms of meeting its obligations, non-proliferation, nuclear security obligations, that would be like a prerequisite for participating in the international cooperation and trade that we need to further develop nuclear energy on the continent. Thanks.
Great. And I will then address the very big question, Valeria, of how to deal with the public element of all of this. And just say education is a huge component of it, certainly. I would just point to a couple of tools that people can look at if they're interested. RAND has a database that is tools that fight disinformation, and Bellingcat offers many workshops for the public to increase their fact-checking savvy. I would say also there's such a huge role for the media in this, and organizations may wish to expand their work in the disinformation sphere in their public information offices and start to be more active about identifying disinformation in this area, and then interacting directly with the media to try to intervene. And I think that another component of that is quite key is then educating the media on these highly technical areas. And I would just say organizations like Atomic Reporters have done a very good job with this challenge, but ultimately it comes down to education.
Thank you so much, Marcy. So I'm afraid, as always, there are more questions than there is time. So we've come to the conclusion of this particular panel, so please join me in thanking the panel. And we'll now be joined on stage by the vice presidents of INMM and ESARDA, Tina and Walid, who will bring the event to a close.
Okay, we realize we're coming to the end and everyone is really tired and wants to go home, so we'll be quick, promise. I don't know why they give the vice presidents this job, right? Okay, all right, go ahead, Walid.
So, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, I'm Walid Emradali, Vice President of the European Safeguards Research and Development Association, and I have with me, of course, Tina Hernandez, that you already know. I had prepared a long text of 30 pages, but unfortunately, we are running out of time, so I will have to make it very short. So, it was the second INMM ESARDA annual meeting that we organized, and the first joint annual meeting that we organized on a physical format in this wonderful city of Vienna. And I can say that this was a wonderful success. We had more than 600 participants, 77 students, 290 first-time attendees, and 63 high-level attendees. So, one very important thing here is the diversity. We are talking about atoms for peace. We are talking about the future, a subject of interest for everyone in the world, for all countries. We are all trying to achieve this important purpose that we all share, which is the peaceful world, the peaceful use of the nuclear energy and the nuclear technologies. And we are very happy to say, and I'm quite proud to say, that we had more than 40 countries represented during this annual meeting. We were women and men from different continents, of different cultures, from different countries, all together here to discuss on those very important things. So regarding the session, 25 panel sessions, 109 plenary and poster session, and 466 talks. As you can see, there were many topics that were addressed, many topics of the future. We have to address the challenges that are now today and that will arise in the future, but also the opportunities. We were talking about machine learning, digitalization, SMR, IMR, etc.
All right, so wanted to take some time to thank all of our exhibitors and sponsors. Oops. What am I doing? Okay. We need to move forward, not backwards. Okay, great. So these are our exhibitors and all of our sponsors. We really can't do this without you, so I hope you all had a chance to go talk to some of the folks at the booths, learn about what they do, the different careers, or even the different technologies that they have. And of course, the most popular was Spot. Also, you know, INMM and ESARDA are both volunteer organizations, and we rely on our volunteers to make you know, meetings like this happen. There's a lot of work, a lot of planning, hundreds of hours of planning that went into making this happen. You know, of course, there's going to be glitches, but at the end of the day, everyone was doing their best, and I think we really did a great job considering the number of sessions. I think you saw that were over 400 that we were in charge of putting together. One other person I wanted to also thank, or one organization, is They are our organization that helps to sort of plan and put all this together. So if I can just get everybody to just give a quick appreciation for all of the hard work that went into putting this meeting together. Last but not least, you all voted and we listened and we tallied, and congratulations to Melis Sakaria. This person got the top voted poster. So I think she's from Tamu, so yeah. quick reminders for tomorrow. Tomorrow's the Education and Networking Day. So there's the workshop on policy and fundamentals of international nuclear safeguards. There's still spots available, so if you do want to partake, please go ahead and go to the registration desk and register. And there will be working group and technical division meetings. Look on your app or on the website to get more information. Last but not least, okay, so we are proving Rob Floyd wrong. Okay, the next meeting, so the leadership has gone, or maybe we're proving him right? We've gone a little soft. But the next meeting is going to be in Portland, Oregon, at the Marriott Downtown Waterfront, so please save the date, July 21st through the 25th. Yay! If there isn't hot weather there, we'll bring it with us, right? Like we did in Vienna. I think it was cold last week, but beautiful weather for us. It just, we just bring the heat with us. Or the nuclear material. I don't know what it is. Oh.
What is that?
All right, there you go.
Okay, now let's talk about the next ESARDA symposium that will take place. Most probably it has still to be confirmed, but there are big chances. Following the tradition, this event is organized in the country of the president. So it will take place most probably in May 25 in Belgium, one of the most beautiful countries in the world. So I hope that many of you will be present. I'm not talking only about the ESARDA members, but also I'm talking about the INMM colleagues and also other persons that would be interested to exchange regarding those important matters. We have at ESARDA many MOU, like with AFCON and the APSN, and we hope that also members of those organizations will be present. Before that, maybe one last thing, in 2024, we will have the more typical annual meeting that will take place in Luxembourg in May 2024. In general, it's a smaller meeting, but still we are approximately 100 people, 200 people for those kind of events. So we count on your participation, and I hope that you will be numerous in Belgium. For the city, we'll still have to think about different options between Bruges, Antwerpen, or maybe Ghent. Thank you. And here you can see a picture of Brussels, and you have the Atomium, which is a landmark in Belgium and which represents iron atoms.
All right. That concludes a very long week for everybody. Thank you for all of your support and being here, and I hope you all get to enjoy Vienna for at least the weekend. Have a great day.